Serious, what terrifying confession has someone told you while intoxicated? My uncle told me he was raped as a child by an older friend. Explains a lot of his problems. Gay man dying of AIDS said I could charge my entire bar tab to his credit card cause he was going to die soon. Edit: it was me and a few friends watching football, so our tab was probably plus $200, but I was talking to him for a while before he said this. Think he was lonely and scared. So we just watched football with him for the rest of the afternoon. Made him feel welcome and normal at least for a while. Just wanted what the rest of us do, to not feel alone and that someone cares. I believe his name was Ron. Edit number 2. This was 2001. My dad told me while he was drunk that the reason him and my mom divorced is because she slept with his best friend, who is now my stepdad, and they have my brother. I nearly fucking fainted as I spent the last 20 years being lied to as I had no idea. About 5 years ago my brother had his girlfriend sleeping over at our house because we'd had a family game night and been partying. I should interject here and say that not a single one of my family really ever liked this girl, and to all appearances she had no love for us either. She was extremely antisocial, hardly ever even said hello to any of us when she came over, and her and my brother would spend all of their time up in his room. Anyways, that night they had both come down and socialized, and we had all been drinking quite a lot. Everyone left and my parents went to bed, but I was still up around 3 AM and sitting downstairs watching TV and getting stoned when she walked down in a t-shirt and her underwear. She walked out to the kitchen like it was nothing, and I got a good glimpse of a thigh as she walked by and saw a long row of 1-inch marks down the length of the thigh. I thought for sure she'd hurry back up as soon as she was done in the kitchen, but to my surprise she plopped down on the floor and started talking like we were good friends. I got an earful to be sure, but the most shocking things I heard were that one of her uncles had raped her when she was 11 or 12 and others had molested her, and she'd been self-harming since. She was around 22 at the time of the conversation, so about 10 years worth of self-harm. She showed me all of the scars she had, down her thigh and her arms. She also said that since she had started dating my brother she hadn't harmed herself and was happy. I realized that her being antisocial had nothing to do with us and was as nice as possible to her from then on. They did break up later, but I'll always remember that little convo. Coworker told me he killed a dude. The other guy had a bad reputation for being a violent asshole and made it pretty clear that only one of them would be leaving the room alive. My coworker decided that he would prefer to be the one who didn't die. He did turn himself in and spent some time in prison. Ages back I was helping a blackout drunk coworker to his apartment, etc. He was needing to be carried 1 second and sprinting across the parking lot the next. As we're getting close to his room he starts breaking down. Why did I hit him? I shouldn't have run, etc. Turns out drunk Diego is pretty convinced he hit a kid with his car one day. Sober Diego has no idea what he was talking about. Freshman year of college, among all the new friends I made that year, there was one guy who was always a goofball. Very laid back, casual, down for whatever. The biggest red flag we got from him was that whenever people were drinking and hanging out, he would always essentially black out. He drank way too much and would kind of spaghetti noodle his way around the party. While also intoxicated, after the party had winded down one night, a few people and I asked him why he always goes so damn hard. While drooping his head a ton, sloshing around, and slurring everything, he told us about how a few months ago, the summer before college started, his best friend called him. They lived in a small town by the beach, and his friend asked him to come meet him to watch the sunset by the water. He biked over there, sat down, and they talked for a while. Everything seemed fine. Then his friend took out a pistol and shot himself in the head, killing himself instantly. Apparently my friend had to call the police while covered in blood, brains, and skull fragments, just totally in shock. And then a few weeks later he went off to college a few states away, still in shock and unable to sleep or focus on anything. He didn't remember telling us that story, and I don't think any of us wanted to bring it up. His drinking habits didn't change until he was about to graduate, by which point he started going to therapy, got a job right after graduation, and seems to be doing better in the years since, thank God. My brother was drunk and he told me how he got sexually assaulted by our half-brother when he was 8. And that he knew that our half-brother assaulted me too when I was 5. I hadn't ever told my brother about my situation, so I was in shock. A friend of mine likes to drink, a lot, but he knows he has a limit because when he goes over it he becomes very talkative. He also doesn't date, at all, and for a long time we all wondered why. He's a good-looking guy, he's really nice, he's fun to be around, when he isn't drinking, anyway, never wants to date. Well, one time he got absolutely shit-faced and I found out why. It turns out that when we was a kid, he saw his aunt murder his uncle in cold blood. Ever since, he's been terrified of being alone with a woman and feels like he could never truly be safe around them. My mom told me she wished she aborted me when I was 8 or 9 or so. She's doing better now after a long struggle with alcoholism. Our relationship is much better, and when I told her this a few months ago she hugged me tightly and keeps apologizing to this day. Thank you so much for the awards. And everyone who relates, I hope you will find peace and love wherever you may go. They didn't tell me this while they were drunk, but I think it fits here. I am a volunteer at a nursing home. When one of the female residents was close to death, she confided it in me this. One time her husband cheated on her with the neighbor's wife. When the neighbor's husband found out, he was very upset and was going to physically hurt her husband. They worked out a deal where the neighbor's husband would not hurt her husband if he was able to return the favor. In essence, her husband agreed to let the neighbor have her in order to save himself a righteous beating. It gets worse. She later became pregnant and told her husband for the rest of his life that it was his, but she honestly believed it to be the neighbor's. Her whole life she was carrying this burden about her son and what her husband had done to her, both with the cheating on her and with the trading her off like a cow. It was truly a heartbreaking conversation. My grandpa never talked about his Korean War service. He had severe PTSD though. Would wake up in the middle of the night screaming. Then one night he came home absolutely shit-faced, laid down on the couch, then told me that his entire unit had been wiped out before his eyes. He was the sole survivor and got caught behind enemy lines but made it out. He was their sergeant and blamed himself. He eventually got into veterans therapy in his 60s though. I drunkenly confessed to my aunt at Christmas about how unhappy I've been feeling for the last 2 years and that I've got a bit of a coke addiction. The phone call from my sister the next morning was awkward as hell to have. Didn't think this would blow up. Thanks for the advice and kind messages, smiley face. I'm currently 2 weeks cold turkey and today has been rough one. Reading these comments and having people DM me advice or just generally asking if I'm okay has given me the motivation I've needed to keep at it. Playing truth or dare at a party with close friends, our lesbian friend of 8 years chooses truth, other friend asks her, jokingly, if she's ever sucked dick. Everyone's laughing, she isn't. She admits to being raped by her uncle for 4 years as a child. Friend who asked starts crying, he had no idea. None of us did. Some guy told me the proper technique to roofie a drink without a girl noticing. I told the bouncer who threw him out, but I'll never know if he was serious or just fucking with me. Which movie is genuinely traumatic? Lorenzo's Oil is a hard film to watch because it's about a child who's dying of an incurable genetic disorder. It sticks pretty closely to the medical facts of the case it's based on, and it unfolds from the parents' point of view. Harrowing stuff even though the story isn't totally bleak, and it was nominated for awards. So yeah, I'm sitting here making a to-watch list. I'll regret this later. When the Wind Blows from 1986. For anyone who doesn't know it, here's a short summary from Wiki. The film accounts a rural English couple's attempt to survive a nearby nuclear attack and maintain a sense of normality in the subsequent fallout and nuclear winter. Just thinking about this movie gives me chills, and not in a good way. Probably one of, if not, the most disturbing movies I've ever watched. I felt sick for days. I'm convinced that the all-glass shower trend is from a generation of home builders who saw the shower scene in Psycho as kids. Watership Down. The Good Son messed me up when I was a kid. The movie itself probably isn't, but when I was a kid and saw the wire scene from Ghost Ship I was pretty traumatized. Kids. Don't know the name of it, but there's a short foreign film where some boys were playing out in the middle of nowhere and one of them gets stuck in some deep mud/quicksand. He goes into it for some reason I forget and of course gets stuck, which they laugh about. He tries wiggling himself out but keeps sinking further. The friend goes for help but cannot find anyone and begins getting frantic. They cut back to show the stuck boy is now sunk up to his neck. Cutscene back and forth from each boy, one looking for help and the other stuck, each time showing the boy sinking deeper and becoming more terrified. The friend finally waves down a passing car and takes her back to the spot his friend was, but there is nothing but the big mud hole. She drives him back home and he is silent, staring out the window the whole way. End film. Edit. My memory is skewed as it's been a while since I've seen it, so I told it a bit wrong, but the premise is there. Boys playing a dangerous game and nature has the last laugh. It's a Sundance Film Festival short film called Fauve. Jacob's Ladder. Threads. Wanna know what a nuclear war would look like for the average citizen? Edit, this blew up, thanks for the awards and upvotes. Anyone interested in seeing it can watch it on YouTube currently. Definitely for mature audiences, though. Fire in the Sky. With the exception of the first and last 10 minutes, it's incredibly boring and mundane. Basically a drama about a murder investigation in rural northern AZ. Then it ends as a proper sci-fi horror with a dude strapped to an exam table on an alien craft being aggressively examined by some ugly-ass humanoid aliens while his screams are muffled by some kind of giant full-body alien condom. My 9-year-old ass didn't sleep well for years after seeing that. Grave of the Fireflies. It's the story of every war. I was traumatized by the ending of The Mist. I had previously read the short story in one of the Stephen King anthologies, I forget which one, so I was not prepared for the ending they went for in the movie. Spoiler, it's not the same. Trainspotting. Saw it once, and I'll never forget it. How did you lose your virginity? 26 extremely intense seconds. Missionary. I finished sweating over her, panting. Asked her, did you come too? Like a fucking idiot. Doggy style with chitty chitty bang bang on in the background. It was as awkward as it sounds. Lost it with my second girlfriend. I was her first boyfriend, so she made me wait almost 2 years. She was going to move away to the US cause of the aftermath of a hurricane, so we decided to do it in case the long distance was too much. Both of us were virgins. A girl caught my eye at a college dance. I had previously spoken to her once before and complimented her Zelda shirt. I talked to her all evening, then invited her back to my apartment to show her Breath of the Wild, which had just come out. We play until 5 in the morning. I regretted not making a move. I invited her over for Zelda again the next evening and we stayed up until 5 in the morning doing something different. Edit, wow, I woke up to so many awards and likes, thank you everyone. Since some of you have been asking, no, we never got together but we are still great friends. She is currently with the love of her life and they're perfect together and I couldn't be happier for them both, smiley face. In the movie theater during Too Fast Too Furious. Sex was the same. Met a girl online. Flew across the US. Met her, didn't do anything. Continued to talk. Flew over again 6 months later, had sex with her the first night. This was in like 1999, I think. Edit, went back sooner than I remembered, updated. Awkwardly. In a public bathroom with my girl best friend. It was nice. Really classy. Very awkwardly, as most people have. On a Tinder date. I told the girl that I was not a virgin. In hindsight, she most definitely should have realized I was lying. Romantic evening with candles. 06,17,09. Lasted about 30 seconds. On the floor of a movie theater. That's a story still waiting to be written. Last day of my freshman year in college with my lab partner. She was very sweet, and I never saw her again. When I returned to my own dorm shortly afterwards, my folks were waiting for me. Awkward. To an Irish girl in a hotel room in Spain in 1997. Vodka was involved.